artists, we are drawing out a bee and some plants for it, specifically an apple tree today, because we're going to use them later on to make our paper pollinator puppet. I'm very excited about this project, and after we finish making the bee and the flowers, you'll be able to actually make the puppet next time. So, you want to start with a blank white sheet of paper and turn it sideways, landscape, so that you can use it the way that we want it to work out. Now, it's important to remember our art mantra, which is that you always want to draw light until you get it right, because you will need to erase some stuff, whether it's because you made a mistake or if it's because it's a part of the bee that we have to erase later on. You've got to get that ready. So we've got our paper, and we are going to start with our bee. Now, it's important to make sure your bee is not too big, because if it takes up the whole paper, you won't have room to move it around. And it needs to not be too small, because if it's too small, it won't work very well as a puppet either. So my bee is about as big as my finger. That's a good size for you to go with as your goal. And when it's in the middle of the paper, I'm going to scooch our bee to the middle, it should look kind of like this, okay? That bee should take up just about the middle section of your paper, but not too much more. So our bee is going to start with, we're going to start drawing the head. Insects, like bees, have 3 body parts. I'm going to draw that off to the side. An ant, for example, you see often it has a head, it has a thorax, and an abdomen. So our bee similarly has 3 parts. We're going to start with the head, and your head should be shaped like an upside-down teardrop. Okay? And then from there, from the head, we're going to add on the thorax. Now bees, specifically the honeybee, which is the one that we are doing in our project, have a very fuzzy thorax. And you probably know why. If you're studying pollination, why would a bee need a fuzzy thorax? So that it can get more pollen stuck to its body, so that it can move it from plant to plant. So the way I'm going to draw my fuzzy thorax is I'm going to do quick, short lines that all move in the shape of an oval. If it's easier for you to draw an oval first and then make it fuzzy by adding zigzags, you can do that too. Whichever one's easier for you, do that. After you've got your fuzzy thorax, we want the abdomen. Our abdomen is going to be an oval that stretches and points down a little bit, because it's heavy. When the bee flies, its butt kind of hangs because it's a little heavy. And that's what the abdomen is. It's kind of like the bee's butt. So we're going to have our oval that hangs down. And my bee, by the way, the one that I'm drawing on the board, is significantly bigger than it probably should be. So if yours is smaller, you're doing great. If yours is bigger than mine on the paper, it might be a little hard for you. But now that we've got our abdomen, we can add the stinger. Stingers aren't that big, especially on honeybees. They're just a little point that comes out of the edge. Very good. All right, so now we can start adding some of our bee's details. We're going to first add our bee's eye. It's going to be real cute this way. It's going to be an oval near the top of the head. And I like to add a second oval inside to make it nice and cute. Oh, and you'll end up coloring it later on, but I'm going to put my color in right now. Oh, it's so cute. All right, and then also on the head is the bee's antenna. So to do the antenna, we don't want it sticking straight out like our little ant model. We want them to come up and then bend. So you're kind of drawing the letter L sticking out of the bee's head, and then another one right behind it. Now, next, let's add our bee's legs. To draw the legs, I'm going to start by having very straight lines, which I'm going to add on to make it more realistic. I want one that comes up at an angle and then bends down. Boop! See how it goes over the body? If yours doesn't, that's okay, but definitely get that angle. Another one that's straight up and down. Boop! And then a last one that goes in the front. Boop! Again, if it's in front of the face, that's okay. So that shape again looks like this, just wherever they go. Now let's add some weight to these legs. Let's make them a little bit more real. So the bee's legs are shaped, making it real big, kind of like this. So to draw that on my bee, I'm going to have a thin line that sticks out twice. It's kind of like a very thin W. And then another one up here. Do the same thing back here in the back. And then in the middle, I'm going to add two thin ovals. And also, the bee has feet. They're itty bitty 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 bee feet. So we're going to go ahead and just make doop doop doop. It's like a little 3 foot. Teeny tiny. You can even do smaller than mine. Since I'm using a marker, it's pretty darn big. If you're using a pencil, you can probably get smaller. But we want doop doop doop, cute little feet right at the end. And now honeybees have one more cool thing. Honeybees carry their pollen in what's called a saddlebag. If you've ever ridden on a horse, you know that you sit on a horse's saddle. And cowboys needed to carry things with their horses, so they would put bags attached to their saddles, which would then carry all their things. Bees obviously don't have saddles, but they do have bags that look kind of similar that carry the pollen. And since our bee is specifically pollinating flowers, we want that pollen sac, that little saddlebag. So I'm going to draw an oval right here at the edge of the leg. If you're using a pencil, go ahead and erase some things so that you can see your legs and see your pollen sac a little bit more clearly, your saddlebag. And now our bee can't fly yet. It needs wings. The bee's wings are quite thin and narrow, and they're also shaped again like a teardrop. It's going to start at the thorax, come up, whoop, and then go into a teardrop shape, one on each side, whoop. And I like to add details, so I'm going to add a line right through the middle of both of them. Cut those lines partially through. Okay, we've got some cute wings on our bee. And now it wouldn't be a honeybee if it didn't have stripes. So, don't just go crazy and don't put the stripes everywhere. The bee's stripes are actually only on the abdomen, at least the honeybees. So we're going to make big letter V's to show you where those stripes are. The V goes all the way from the top down to the bottom. These V's are the part that are black, whereas the rest of it is going to be yellow. Okay, oh, he looks so good. Now we need to give our bee something to drink, the pollen, the nectar to get. So we're doing an apple tree. But as you can see from my finished example, there are no apples on my tree, are there? That's because the pollinating step, comes while the apple tree is in the flower stage. After winter, when it's spring, it grows flowers. Those flowers get pollinated by friends like our bee, and then they turn into either leaves or they turn into fruit, like apples. So I didn't put any apples on my tree. You shouldn't either, really. So I'm going to add some branches. I am just doing a couple of branches off the tree. Your branches don't have to look like mine. Please make sure you're being creative as you add branches and leaves and details and things like that. Have fun with it. And then I'm going to have a couple of little twigs sticking out on each side. And for my flowers, I'm going to do a 5-petal flower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm choosing 5 petals because that's how many petals are on an apple tree flower. Maybe some of them are more angled than others, so I can only see 3 petals or a 4th one. Maybe some are kind of small. Maybe some places I want to add leaves by making 2 curving lines that touch at the end. This one's going to go off my page. Add more. Make sure you pause the video if you need to catch up. And inside the flower, we need to add our anther and filament. That's the little things inside. So I'm going to put 3 little lines just inside each one. I'm choosing 3. Maybe you want to do 2, maybe you want to do 4. Maybe you want to make sure you add an actual anther on the end, which is the little teeny tiny circle at the edge. Up to you, really, how you make your flower look good. But you do need to make sure that you add something that can give the bee the pollen it needs to harvest. Okay, but it's done. At this point in time, you need to color. When I chose to color mine, imagine this blue paper's white. When I chose to color mine, I put pink on the edges of my flowers to kind of hint that they're a very light pink, but I kept them white because, again, I'm trying to make it look like an apple tree. I colored my leaves a bright green because it's springtime, and I put some brown on some fuzz by doing little short lines on my bee. So if you want to color yours like mine, you can go ahead and pause the video here, get the colors you need. Don't worry about the blue. We're going to talk about that next video, which will be in the description. So have fun coloring, and I'll see you later.